To the extent that the political structure is this top-down structure, that's every level is trying to looking up for political promotion, and that promotion is based on measurable performance, such as GDP growth. I think it's very important if they define the performance differently, that's going to generate different incentives for local politicians to rebalance their local policies. However, I think it's sort of tricky to how to define the performance. On one hand, say the central government has a balanced view on, let's say, GDP growth, urbanization, income equality, environment, all those things together, and suppose the central government can have a very well-defined objective function with optimal weights on each element there. When it's implemented for local government officials, it also depends on how good they can measure each piece of that performance. For example, GDP might be easier to measure than environmental consequence, because environmental consequence may not appear in the short run. If you're thinking about the turnover cycle is about 5 years for each official at each position, then how would you measure, for example, the environmental problem that appear at year X, but was a consequence of year X minus 10, right? It was like 2 posts before, it was because that official was overdeveloping, that generate a long-run environmental problem. Are you going to attribute that environmental problem to the previous official or to the current official, right? I think that's very important in defining the performance measure and the consequential incentive of officials. So that's one example. Another example is maybe all the previous officials, including me as a current official, contribute to this problem, right? How can you divide the responsibility of this whole problem into different officials? I think that's very, very hard to do.